Shall we begin?
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Enough to Keep Going podcast on the E2KG network. This is Enough to Keep Going number 160. Nice round episode for the evening of Thursday, September 10th. This is our GX show. It's our game experience show for the first one of September. If you're not familiar with the Enough to Keep Going format, every other week we have our game experience shows where we're going to run down not only our playlist and what we've been playing in the world of video games, but also an assignment, because we are adults with jobs and children and plenty of other tasks and responsibilities. So why not give ourselves additional responsibilities by making us do more homework, making us do some additional gaming work, diving into a variety of different topics. So every other week, we're going to give ourselves an assignment. This week, we are reporting out on one, but in true E2KG fashion, we're going to give ourselves another assignment at the end of the episode, so stick around all the way for that. On the off weeks, when we're not talking about what we're playing, we're talking about the industry itself. We're diving into the news, sales, controversies, lawsuits, game announcements, price announcements. Gentlemen, we got plenty of news coming out this week, but that is not the show. By the time we get to next week, we will have plenty to talk about, whether it is the official launch of the Xbox Series S and now pricing and finance packages. But maybe even by the time we get around to next week, we might even have a little bit more information on Sony as well. So there is always, and Nintendo, of course, does what Nintendo does, and we'll have some news there in true fashion, because who doesn't need another Dynasty Warriors game? So, but that is not our intent for tonight. Our intent for tonight is to go through what we've been playing, both current games and also some things from our back catalog, or things that struck our fancy over the last 2 weeks. So joining me tonight in order to do that is Swissguard. How are you, sir?
Uh, I'm going to admit right now that I failed to complete our Pickz Playz assignment, so I apologize for that. But I figured, given the assignment, I didn't really have anything that we hadn't covered in the past episodes, and the games that you two gentlemen have up, I think, are going to occupy quite a bit of discussion time. So I will gladly yield my Pickz Playz time to you guys.
All right. So, and the other gentleman here with me tonight, sporting a wonderful brand of the E2KG network, Osiris Prime. How are you?
I am well. I stepped it up a notch from the t-shirts. So
there you go. Well, Swiss gave us a nice segue into what our topic is, and that you and I have some things to talk about. So our topic last week, we were talking about Apple and Epic and all the Fortnite news and lawsuits. So the assignment that we gave ourselves, because this has been going on for a while, was, given the current controversy around Epic and Apple, we want to revisit a controversial game from the past. Either it was something that was broken at launch, something that was weighed down by microtransactions or glitches and bugs, or something, whatever the controversy may have been. And to dive back into it, see if it's been fixed, see if it, in hindsight, is something that is worth revisiting, or if it was something that was blown out of proportion or is still kind of a little janky today. So I will let you go first, Osiris Prime, because you picked a big one in terms of 2 years ago we were dealing with, this is the game that launched with a letter from the developer saying, thanks for coming along on our development journey. This game is going to be broken and we know it, so please help us patch and fix the bugs. Of course, I am talking about Fallout 76, which is now on Game Pass, so I'm guessing maybe that's where you dove into it, or?
yes, yeah, I chose Game Pass. I wanted to do a Game Pass game, and I figured for a while actually, and I figured this was probably the best choice lately to pick from. So Fallout 76, I played Fallout 3 a little bit, got a little bit ways through it, maybe like 10 hours or so, maybe 15. It's kind of dreary and drab for my taste. Fallout 4 was a lot better because the environments were a lot better, controlled a little bit better. I always thought the shooting was kind of janky in 3, and Fallout 4 seemed to improve on that. And now Fallout 76, I played a few hours of it. I actually didn't get to play as much as I would have liked. I do want to kind of go back and play a little bit more because I didn't really do. I saw some people in the world when I was playing, but I didn't, get to really like do missions or anything like that, or quests or stuff like that. But it seems to be stable. I know that was one of the biggest things, was like kind of just the stability and just like this, the bugginess of it, which, Bethesda's, I think, pretty much known for that in all their games, not just Fallout 76, but even in like the Elder Scrolls and games like that. I didn't see anything like dramatically terrible in there. Some of the NPCs sometimes, I'd be talking to them, and I'm assuming I was supposed to be like sitting right in front of them because I'm off to the side of them, but they're still looking, off this way, off to the other side. So, just kind of janky things like that. And maybe like, someone's walking and they kind of clip into the ground, and nothing like super bad. It's not like they go up, down to their head or anything like that. They were just kind of, their foot kind of matched in there, maybe up to their ankle or so, a little bit higher. And then, they're back up on the street or the grass or whatever they're walking on. So as far as that, I didn't see anything like super terrible, but once again, I've only did, a couple hours of it. So, it wasn't too bad. I'm trying to think back on some of these, the problems they had. Performance issues, once again, it's kind of the same thing. They didn't really see anything.
Lots of performance issues.
Yeah.
Lots of, and also at launch, right, there weren't any NPCs. It was a lot of terminals and, robot interactions. In the Game Pass version, are the NPCs in there, or is that a additional add-on?
Nope. Yep. Actually, the first little town you get to, there's it's about maybe like a half a dozen or so, maybe 7 or 8 of their NPCs in there. I think weren't they? I don't remember. Weren't they, instead of like NPCs? Weren't the players supposed to kind of like take that role or something like that? I think in the beginning, or it was something strange like that. But yeah, there's fully full dialogue tree with NPCs. Getting quests and doing challenges and stuff like that. So it seemed fine to me. Like I could see if I had started it back when it first came out, that'd be pretty boring just to sit there on a terminal, all the time, just reading everything. Which, I mean, obviously you're still reading it when the NPCs talk. Well, they're talking too, but I usually kind of like read ahead anyways. But it's just kind of more interactive that way with the NPCs there. I guess, well, that was the other thing I was going to mention, was that people found it incredibly boring, which was probably because there was no NPCs around or anything like that. Maybe if you ran into somebody, maybe that'd be, somewhat of a fun thing to do. But here, once again, I had like, a full thing of NPCs. Even before I got to the town, there was like a few people that I talked to, just kind of going along the way. So that was kind of nice, nice interaction there. And there were like, not the, what's the one robot, Robbie the robot or something, like not those kind of robots, but just other kind of floating robots kind of here and there. Like I could see that getting kind of old after a while, because at least you're seeing
there's definitely that kind of classic Fallout kind of robotic arms with the monochrome screen and everything.
Yeah, these are a little different, which it was kind of nice. It was kind of still like a floating robot, but it had like these 2 tentacles, eyes that were kind of sticking out of it instead of like the TV screen that's in the chest or whatever, or in the body. So it was a little bit different. I was just kind of like, oh, that's, even just like right off the bat, I was like, oh, that's kind of different. That there was something there. The beginning, like the opening scene, wasn't quite as long as the other 2 Fallouts, so that was kind of nice. It kind of pretty much threw you out into the world right away. They could did a quick recap of the story of what happened. Obviously, if there was a war and there was bombs dropped, I don't think that's a spoiler for Fallout games. And you're coming out of the vault for the first time, I think, after 100 years. This is the time period, 100 years after the bombs have dropped. So it was a little odd, because I met an NPC that was like, yeah, I was there when it happened. I'm like, I don't know how, because you look pretty young. So maybe the radiation, like, de-aged him or something, or like slowed down his aging. But I just a little weird that he was still kicking there. But no, actually overall, it's actually so far not a bad experience. You could do, there's a bunch of crafting you do, which for me now, after playing so many games like that, it's not a big deal. I had to craft a gun and armor and stuff like that. But you could pick up pretty much everything and anything in this game. Bottles and just pieces of like leather, which is odd. That's just pieces of leather sitting around. But obviously that's for the armor and stuff, and metal and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if you can actually destroy things. I think it's just picking up things, as far as I can tell so far. So I don't know if you can get that specific into the crafting part, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't too bad. I think obviously with most games, excuse me, I think it would be better if I had somebody that I was actually able to play with, co-op along with it. So, but I'm enjoying it right now, and like I said, I still want to kind of stick with it for a little bit just to see. I want to see if it's just a little bit too samey as far as like the challenges and the story, the different quests you have to do. If it's just fetch quests or or stuff like that. So I'm gonna stick with it though for now.
So how many hours have you put into it then?
I did a couple hours, at least 2 hours, maybe a little bit more. I'll just say 2 for now.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad that it's been a stable experience for you. Swiss, what were you gonna say?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I was curious about was the gameplay. I didn't think that the bugs and the glitchiness was going to last. I mean, eventually they ironed that out. I was curious if they ironed out the fundamental mechanics, and it sounds like they took it from a questionable design to a mediocre design.
Yeah, I mean it's still play. You get the VAT system where it kind of slow down time.
Okay.
Parts where you want to shoot, and then you can just shoot from the hip, obviously from like a normal shooter. Not quite as fast as like other games like a Doom or something, but it's better than it was in 3. And like I said, it was improved in 4, so it's about the same like as in 4. I didn't get to any. You have like a portable camp that you can like throw down, but I believe you can do like base building and stuff like that in this game too. But I hadn't got to that part yet, so we'll see. We'll have to see. Which is that kind of draws me in too, because I kind of like that stuff. Is the base building your own stuff, customizing stuff. So we'll see how.
Did you do a lot of that in 4? Did you play Fallout 4?
Yeah, I think I just got to that point in 4 when I stopped playing, and I haven't gone back to it yet. So I'm not sure like how involved it is, like how much you can actually build and customize, or how much you can customize stuff. Really, I shouldn't say build, but how many different pieces you can do. And I guess that's one thing too. If that gets too tedious, like if I have to like craft every single piece and grab all these materials and I say there's stuff you can find everywhere, but I mean still you have to go out and look for it. So, and I've done that now in plenty of games that I don't know if I want to do that again. Like if I could just like buy stuff, kind of like in No Man's Sky, where you can like stop after I get to like a certain point in that game. I was able just to buy stuff because I had so much money. Like if I do that fairly easily, I mean it might not be too bad. But if it's just like, all right, I gotta spend like 30-40 minutes, an hour just to gather materials, that might get old kind of fast. Just to build like a wall or something. Or a little
this
shack.
Coming from the guy who ran the turnip market in order to max out his wallet in Animal Crossing. So
I had a website for that, for help for that. So
that's insider trading. All right.
That's right. I broke the market.
That's so good. I'm glad that it's been a stable experience. Definitely. I mean, we're coming into year 2 of this. I mean, 2 full years. We're coming into a 3rd year of this. So that's pretty, it's a good sign. And the fact that they've stuck with it and all these updates have been free for people, that's, like you said, on Game Pass, it's a really good value at this point. What may not be a good value is my game. And I am not taking a game from the past. I'm taking a very recent game. In fact, it's a game that if you're watching NFL football tonight on kickoff on Thursday night, Madden is sponsoring many different pieces of it. So, but I'm talking about Madden 21. If you listened 2 weeks ago to our game experience show where I talked about my experiences with Madden 21 and the slow menus and the glitchiness and some of the broken aspects, and so I can't say that I have spent some time with Madden 20. Madden 21 is not a final product, right? Even today on September 10th, that we get new patch notes for Madden, where they're, as everything, they are continuing to kind of tweak the defense, the offense. We're getting some additional tweaks in terms of, better coverage on some plays where coverage was breaking down. This year, you were supposed to be able to throw out of a sack a little bit better and not get kind of caught up in an animation that you did in Madden 20. So they're continuing to work on and adjust that a little bit. We've got a number of other online stability functions. The Yard, which is Madden's new piece, at launch was having lots of connection and stability issues in terms of this is meant to be a kind of backyard playground type of football multiplayer game. And there were a lot of stability issues, not only on servers and connectivity, but also on assets loading. Half the field, the field without any marks. Not all your players would load. When I had the experience, I talked about this, where during Face of the Franchise mode, I had a giant white screen with some black outlines of characters. In the patch notes, it does say for Face of the Franchise that they've improved graphical stability. So maybe that is some of the things that they're addressing here. But, that in a sports game, yes, it does take a while to kind of, usually you do get the patches that adjust gameplay, right? Like, oh, now that we see that this play can be exploited, or this defense, or that, if there's a number of baseball, the show does the same thing, that it takes a while for batting to kind of settle in as people are seeing kind of on the server end how that all plays out. So it makes sense, but this year's Madden was just, one, it was the end of a generation. It was cross-generational, right? Like, they were also devoting resources to the Series X and PlayStation 5. And we end up with the, kind of remote development through the pandemic. And that's a lot to throw at a game that is, sometimes struggles under its own weight to begin with. And Madden 21 definitely has done that. I think that is, yes, there are some stability things. It does sound like some of those kind of gameplay stability pieces are getting improved, but in general, there are still big glitches that you can find out online and on Reddit as people are posting glitches in terms of assets not loading, or clipping plays, or the fact that Madden is very animation based, so you get a lot of kind of maybe not true to life game experiences there. But in all that, yes, they continue to go on. Chris, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say, like, in some ways, it sounds like you want to, like, I'm not accusing you of defending it, but I feel like EA and Madden especially, is one franchise that should not get the benefit of the doubt for some of these problems. They're not starting from square one. They release practically the same game every year. So, like, I don't understand how it could have gone so off the rails in one iteration. I mean, I'm not a Madden guy. Like, I think the last Madden I played was Madden 2003 with Marshall Faulk on the cover, so that tells you.
That was 2003. You're right. Way to go.
You how old school that is. But that is, I didn't hear a lot of. Did they, like, try to really revolutionize some of the mechanics this time, or were they kind of, like you said, it's the end of the generation, where they kind of just trying to make a really polished Madden to send it off, and then next year was like, okay, this is the first one on Gen 9, we're gonna really, like, amp it up. Like, what did you catch any of that?
I thought you were gonna say run for the end zone there for a second. You could have used that.
Nice. So I will say that Madden is almost the tail. I mean, people have been talking about this with Marvel's Avengers, and I'll talk about that later today as well. But it's almost like two different gameplay experiences, where if you're just going to play a straight exhibition game, or if you're going to play a franchise mode, because franchise mode is exactly the same as it was last year, the actual, like, quarter to quarter on the field game is better than last year in terms of, not as many kind of money plays yet. A little more involvement. So the actual game of football is really good. The problem is all the other stuff that they've added, even, they've had problems with Ultimate Team, which is pretty consistent year after year. So the problems are either they didn't add anything, like Ultimate Team and franchise, or the new things that they added, like Face of the Franchise and the Yard, launched really glitchy and kind of broken. And so that's where you're either it's hard to be satisfied because either you're getting a good version of last year's game or all the new things that you might have been interested in don't really work very well. So yes, the things that they already had been building on since they went to Frostbite in 2017, that for Madden 18, that is stable, and it's the most stable it's been. It's the things that they tried to add in outside of that. Um, and so yes, I appreciate the fact that they continue to tweak some things. I still am, Madden is free this weekend for NFL opening weekend. It's on free on all platforms. So if you want to see how stable it is or isn't, you can certainly check it out. But I do kind of come off as I concede that, right? Like, they're gonna iron out some of the stability things. So the glitchiness, the brokenness of it is gonna get a little better. The value of it, not so much. That part I'm not gonna apologize for, right? And I think one great example of this is that last week EA announced what they're going to do 3 updates to the franchise, right? That they had talked about that they were going to do 3 post-release kind of patches to update the franchise mode because they haven't really touched anything in it other than change the color of the menus, which is so. So they're big updates that they've released, and this is my soapbox rant for just a minute. One of them is stat tracking, that you're going to be able to see a player's stats across, if they've changed teams. Great, you're going to be able to see that. You're going to get development trait regression tuning so that maybe people don't drop as fast or drop different ways in terms of their stat degradation. And then the third of 4 things is they're going to show you a playoff bracket. Like that's their big update, is we're going to show you stats, which we should be able to track because it's all in and then we're going to tweak the back end a little bit, and we're going to give you a visual playoff bracket. Granted, as somebody who has just recently played through 2 seasons of Madden 20, having a playoff bracket would be really nice because you don't get that now, but it's a playoff bracket. The fact that it's coming as like a new feature also seems like, I don't know. That
It's a little
seems
insulting.
yes, right. Like, oh, guess what? Here you go. We can all draw a playoff bracket on a scrap of paper because we've been doing it since you entered your first March Madness tournament. But yeah, so yes, that this is maybe not. It's both broken and also just neglected. So there is my Madden 21 rant. At the same time, it is. I am actually gonna look into Doug Flutie's Maximum Football, the Canadian Football League, to see how that plays out. Obviously it's I'm gonna be dealing with some glitches there, I'm sure, but could be a little different of an experience.
I think it definitely goes to show what could happen to a franchise without a strong competitor. And like you said, like just a playoff bracket, that you can't that
yeah, it shouldn't be a big ask, right? Yeah. Like this is yep. And granted, the playoffs for the NFL do change a little bit this year, but last year there wasn't a playoff bracket at all. So it's not like they have to just modify it. They've got to create it. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Like without real competition, it's too easy to and this is not a new drumbeat, right? They've put their development time into where they make the money out of in terms of Ultimate Team. And I would say that 2K has done the same thing. 2K really hasn't had a lot of competition from NBA Live and EA, but 2K has also created a really deep career mode. It's got huge and deep my league modes where, the franchise aspects of all that. Like they're using the heavily microtransaction modes of NBA 2K to help support kind of, building out the rest of the game where EA and Madden has not done that. So since Swiss gave us a little taste of 2002 with Madden 2003, I know. Well, it came out in the fall of 2002,
right?
right?
That they make it all like.
Yep, you got to go 1 year ahead. But so let's roll back a few years and get back to Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Osiris Prime, you've been playing Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Tell us about it. So, 1, were you a big Tony Hawk guy back in the day? If so, does this hold true, or is your muscle memory coming back? And also, how's it hold up for other members of your family who may not have played Tony Hawk before?
Yeah, so I was thinking of getting this kind of already when I heard about it coming out. I wasn't initially going to get it right away, but then my son had been asking about a Tony Hawk game he had played a while back that I had my original Xbox set up. Excuse me, that was Wasteland. I didn't have that set up anymore. It's packed away somewhere. So I was like, well, this is coming out, next week or in the coming Friday. So I picked it up. Been playing it. Yeah, my muscle memory is boom. I was right there. I was doing manuals. I was grinding on rails and doing all kinds of stuff. So it was like that. I just picked it right up. My wife too. She used to play it all the time back in the day when it first came out. So she was able to get back in there. But my son, yeah, he actually really enjoys it. He already has a favorite map there's a lot of maps or a lot of different areas you can skate in this game. So we've just been doing the free skating right now. So I did a little bit of, just regular, kind of challenges that you can do. And I don't remember, but there's like a time limit that they give you now, or at least in these first 2 games, or the first game. I haven't played the second one yet. You have like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to do the different challenges. Obviously if you don't get them, you could just go back and it remembers, what you've already unlocked. So that's nice. But I don't remember that time limit before like that. But like I say, we're doing the free skate, and yeah, they've updated the graphics. The gameplay feels the same. I don't know if they've actually tweaked anything or not. I hadn't really read up on it or not as far as the gameplay itself, but I was very comfortable getting back into it, and my family's enjoyed it. We played it pretty much every night since we've got it last Friday.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So
is this like a pass the controller around the couch type of thing?
Well, you could do 2 players at the same time, couch co-op. So we just take turns. Well, a couple of us, we'll switch off every once in a while, but so we can each get a turn, playing together with each other. So it's nice. It's nice that there's that couch co-op. Going back to the day, where you can just sit down and play with somebody. So it's kind of cool that we found something else now that we can all play.
That's really cool. I saw that I saw it in the agenda, and I've forgotten that it was so imminent to be released. So I might have to pick it up.
Yeah, it was just we just happened to ask about it that day, which kind of goes into another game if we get a chance to talk about, or that I can talk about later on, that my son will just bring up games to me, and then I'll start picking them up and playing them, and I'll enjoy them too. So it's kind of cool that I'm getting that other side now of gaming, where might not necessarily Tony Hawk I probably would have picked up, but this other one I probably wouldn't even thought about or even looked at. But he kind of throws stuff at me that that I can pick up and we can play together, and as a family, or even just he can play. So it's kind of nice that that's coming from that side now. And
that is great.
The graphics are good, and I do like the intro. It's like the old kind of starts off with like an old TV, like VHS tape. You can kind of see the lines kind of going on it, and they kind of go through the real life, all the skaters kind of showing their moves. And I guess that's the one thing they've done. They've actually added some of the newer skaters that are like popular now. So that's kind of cool that you can go around and skate as them or unlock them and use their skins. So it's cool.
It really seems like it's it's a commercial successful project, but it's also a passion project, right? Like this was not a quick and dirty Tony Hawk remaster kind of thing like Activision has done before. This is
Right.
Vicarious Visions has really put some time into it. They've done the remasters of some of the. I think they did the Crash ones, or at least they did the Spyro ones, but they've been involved with some other remasters. So they definitely, and they've been around Activision for a long time. Those Vicarious Vision people. So
Yeah.
it's great that they have been able to put some love into this. And you guys are loving it as well.
Yeah. Wasn't there one like a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yes, there was
That
Tony
was
Hawk
terrible.
5,
Yeah.
which was bad, right?
Yeah.
And then there was a Tony Hawk HD, which was like supposed to be the HD version of 1, which didn't have the same physics and everything else, and it really neither one of those. I mean, this is why people were both excited and also hesitant about
Yeah.
this. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Well, I will talk about another game that some people are excited for, and some people are definitely hesitant and maybe even a little frustrated by, and that is Marvel's Avengers. So, gentlemen, I don't know if you guys had a chance to play the beta of this at all, but as I talked about on this show, I did play the beta both for Xbox and PlayStation. Played through all the beta missions on PlayStation, and I was gonna sit on this and kind of wait and pick it up as like a holiday sale, because by that time the things would get, a little more stable, and we'd have some more characters in there, so there'd be some more content. And then the reviews started coming out, and the reviews for the story have been resoundingly good. And I could get a discount if I got it through Best Buy and had some extra cash and credit there. So yes, I picked up Marvel's Avengers even after saying I was going to wait on it. But I'm glad I did. The story mode is fun. It's well written. If you're a comics fan, if you're a superhero fan, story mode is really good. You know, I've gotten up to and past where you go in the beta in terms of the story mode. And there's a lot of stuff that happens before you get to the parts in the beta, and actually is a really good introduction for the game. It really invests you in it more so than kind of the quick bridge tour that you get with all the different characters from the beta. It's fun. I mean, it's heartfelt. It puts a smile on my face. It's really enjoyable. So that means I haven't finished the beta. I mean, I haven't finished the story mode. But you can also jump right from the main menu into the Avengers Initiative menu, which basically takes you into the end game. Like, it tells you right off the bat, this has story spoilers, but basically it's where the game drops you after you finish the campaign, and now you are basically in Destiny's Tower, is what it ends up being. That you are there on one of the helicarriers, and you got you have vendors who pull up very much in Destiny style of, um, ta-da! Here is your bounties for the day or for the week. Certain types of attacks or certain missions or combo team ups, and then you also have you can earn rep from those vendors. Those vendors will have specific gear, so they've got a little quip as they come up to you. As you come up to them, it's very much like Destiny in the Tower, and that's not to say it's a bad thing, right? Like, I found myself kind of getting lost around the helicarrier, but then I had to remind myself, like, it took me a while to figure out where to go in the tower as well. That having a big space for people to navigate in and around is not but it drops you into like you get a mission select screen on a map. You get different places. Some of these will be short missions. Some of these will be, as I talked about before, sometimes you get quick little missions. Sometimes you get almost kind of more like strikes or lost sectors from a Destiny parallel. You also end up with each character has a series of character kind of story missions where they still run you into the same content. And actually, Captain America's and Black Widow's kind of post game story content they reuse the same map. They just give you, it's technically a different setting. It is that, but it gives you some different story parts along the way as well. So, but the story pieces in those extra pieces, like, oh, you get to you do the Black Widow's part and she's got some unique dialogue and there's a side story that goes on, or Captain America has a side story. Those parts feel really good. They're still kind of engaging. But then there's all the other kind of filler pieces. There's the grindy bits. And in the moment to moment, they're fun. The combat is not bad. It's kind of brawler beat 'em up combat. There's some nice combos. The skill trees do get better and they're better than they were in the beta. All of that is to say that there's still, if you're not a big live service fan, this is a great game to wait for a holiday sale because the story mode is well worth it. If you have any interest in kind of the live service aspect or some investment in these characters, there's still a lot of game to be had here. Well, there's a lot of game to be had here. Whether or not you enjoy all of it, yeah, I'm enjoying it, but I can totally see where people will get burned out by the dichotomy of, we had a great story, really compelling. This is Crystal Dynamics. This is the Tomb Raider reboot people who have done some really good storytelling. Although there still are, in true Tomb Raider fashion, you do get your kind of death cam sequence as you miss a jump and fall to your doom. You don't necessarily get impaled on spikes to the extent that you did in Tomb Raider, but you get that, and then you get a nice big loading screen. So, going back to Madden, this is Avengers is also a game that is bridging generations. I'm sure it's going to run a lot better on the next gen hardware. The load times are going to be much better. The load times here are not great. You'll sit in the helijet loading into a mission for quite a while. The matchmaking still isn't great. I mean, so for a live service game, there hasn't been one in recent memory that has launched completely stable. Destiny had issues. Division 2 had some issues. Anthem certainly has had issues, right? Like these are Borderlands 3 had some issues. There's nature. The nature of the beast is that there's some adjustments that are going to happen as it goes forward. But if you have any interest in the IP or of superheroes in general, there's a good game to be had here. And even if you play through the story and go through and do the character missions in the end game stuff, and maybe don't grind for loot for all epic gear, or it's not your end all be all game, there's still a lot of fun to be had. And so I'm glad I picked it up. I'm excited about kind of the content drip of characters, and that even that in and of itself will give me kind of a reason to come back and rerun some of the same missions because I can play it with a different character. So yeah, it is. I'm having a lot more fun with it than I was really worried. And I've done this before with betas where I've played the beta, both the closed beta and the open beta. And by the time I get the game, Division 2, I did this. By the time I got the game, I didn't want to go back and rerun all that story stuff because it was the exact same thing I had done 2 times before. And in some ways, because the beta of Avengers doesn't give you the opening stuff, doesn't give you the opening 2 hours, by the time I get to the beta stuff, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm already back and reinvested in this because I haven't just done the exact same thing. So it's successful in that way. It's successful in the storytelling. Time will tell if it's successful in kind of the live service aspect. Prime, I know that you had talked about last time on the last 2 weeks ago on the Game Experience show about potentially picking this up, but I know you said you were going to hold off on it for a while.
Yeah, I didn't get it yet. So, but you're giving it some glowing reviews, so maybe I get to it a little bit sooner than I thought. So the power, or not the power ups, but like the loot, if you want to call it that, stuff, is that integral to the story, or is it more that's just kind of your superhero and you can do stuff? That's more like the Destiny
basically
part.
As you progress through the story, you're gonna get gear that is more powerful. You put it on, right? The numbers go up. It's fine. You don't have to worry about You can totally kind of disengage from the gear in general. You don't have to worry about a build or specking to a certain type of play style. That you can put your skill points in things you want to. Yeah, you can play through the story just as a story, and it seems to be about a 10 to 12 hour. Some people have pushed up to 14. Some reviews have said it's only 8 hours, so it depends on kind of how much other stuff you engage with, how much time you spend kind of hunting around the maps for other secrets. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to be invested in the long haul to get something out of this game.
Okay. And I forgot, are the extra characters they're going to add, is that part of a battle pass or?
All free.
Oh, it is all free.
So
Okay.
there is a battle pass. Well, there is a challenge card is what they're calling them, but they're basically a battle pass for each character that you do certain things on a character and it'll earn you experience or points to then unlock, like a nameplate or an emote or eventually some skins.
Okay.
And the battle pass for the original 5 characters or the original 6 are all free. They're free with the game. And then the battle passes for the DLC characters, who the characters are free. The battle passes there are $10. And actually, this is where it got some slack in terms of being a $10 battle pass for a character. But what many of the stories don't cover, and I've seen it covered in some stories, is that the final tier of the battle pass is the equivalent of $10 in store credit. So if you finish the battle pass, you get 10 more. You get $10 worth of store coins to then purchase another battle pass.
Okay.
And the battle passes, unlike Destiny, don't have seasons, so you could get one and play for the next 6 months to try to unlock Hawkeye's stuff. So it's pretty generous. It's pretty kind of take it as you will. You don't have to engage with it at all if you don't want to. So.
And then there was one more question I had, or I guess maybe a comment. So when I first saw this game and just seeing other videos and stuff about it, I noticed that the characters, they kind of look like they're trying to go with the MCU kind of design, but there's like something off about them. Does that bother you, or is it kind of like, okay, it's a character, it's just this is the Iron Man for this particular game?
Yeah, I think for me they work because I have comic. Trying to think of how to phrase this right. Comic book characters have different artists over time, or you'll get multiple different interpretations of Thor because the artist on the Avengers draws him one way and his own book draws him a totally different way. And so yes, I mean I guess as somebody who is comfortable in comics, I'm not so worried about the fact that they don't look they're their own version. They're their own artistic take on these characters. They're close in some capacity to the MCU people. Thor very much kind of mimics some of the humor of Chris Hemsworth. But they all are just a little bit different. And I think in some ways the closeness gives you some familiarity, but the fact that they're not trying to set this in the MCU and it's its own universe also means that it's okay that these are kind of off-brand MCU people.
Yeah.
This is you get that in comics plenty of times as well.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like that artist, but not really.
Yeah, and I can understand it. I think the problem that I'm having is because we have like the live character, the live actor renditions of them. I've kind of like grown, I've like kind of latched onto that look, and some of them, especially like with the Bruce Banner, it looks pretty close to Mark Ruffalo, and like you said, Thor too even kind of looks like him too. So I was just wondering if you had any issues with that also.
So I would say that I wasn't a fan of the character designs. I mean, Kamala Khan, I like her character design. Bruce Banner was like, it's okay. But after the introduction of the game, when you're playing as Kamala Khan and you're on the you're on the helicarrier, and you kind of have kind of brief interactions with many of the Avengers, I they do a good job of humanizing them. And so by that point, I wasn't really worried about what they looked like. I was invested in who they were, right? I was invested in their characters, not so much their depictions.
The design. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. And PS4 because of Spider-Man.
Yes, PS4 because of Spider-Man.
All right.
And also because when I played it on Xbox One X, my fan hummed just as loudly as it did on PS Pro. So
Yeah.
if I wasn't going to get any real graphical, bonus on either one of these current gens, I'm going to go with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So
And, given the way that the battle passes and everything are funded, and you're talking about it being generous, how much is the actual game? Is it like a full $60?
it's a full $60 game.
Okay.
Yep. Full $60 game. If you want to buy a legendary skin of that one time this character dressed as X, or this was the unique outfit during when their other costume was broken, those are going to run you. They're pretty pricey. Like it's 1,000 in-store credits for $10. Some of the legendary skins are like 1,600, so you're into $15 a skin or more. Yeah, this is it. There are definitely some mobile game whale hooks in here, but at the same time, you don't have to. You know, you don't have to do that. And this is where the downside of this is like, yeah, in the Spider-Man game, the PS4 Spider-Man game, you got a ton of various Spider-Man costumes just by playing the game and doing certain challenges within the game. Here, I mean, you get some through the challenge modes. A lot of them, actually, other than kind of some of the, looking through the possible ones at this point, a lot of them are going to be available through your vendors in the game, through either at the helicarrier or you get a second vendor down the road in the campaign, and you earn faction points, faction rep, and maybe they'll do factions better than Destiny 2 has done with Future War Cult and others. But you earn faction and then be able to purchase skins there as well. So there are some options. If you want to be a whale and get that, you certainly could, but you don't have to. This goes back to, I think you can really enjoy the story mode without necessarily diving into the hamster wheel of live service games of always chasing bigger numbers, that Skinner box for one more hit, but never really progressing anywhere. Um, so this is where I would say, yeah, if it's it's a Square Enix game, it's a Crystal Dynamics game. The Tomb Raiders have all been on sale relatively quickly after their release. At least have all had significant Christmas discounts, and I would think that this will be no exception. That it will have a big discount during Christmas time because of all the other kind of hooks for monetization. That you'll be able to pick this up easily. I would think half price by the time that Black Friday rolls around. So let's go to one really positive but troubled game that I've enjoyed. But Swiss, you're going to go back to something you've been enjoying over the whole summer, which is Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, the last month or two, it's been my primary game. I think, we had talked about it, and the last time we had gotten into a little bit how they had really, I felt, done a good job with the open world formula. I don't think we really got into much with the little things that I really liked about the game. So I kind of just wanted to, touch base and provide an update. But I'm really liking the pace of the quests and the cutscenes. Even on some of the side quests, you get like, little cutscenes, some voice acting. There's pretty much all the missions involve go to location X and kill Mongols. But they do a decent job so far of giving it a variety. So like, I've gone on to like the Mongol ship docked in the harbor and rescued like a peasant's daughter that had been kidnapped. and I've been defending a forge from like hordes of invading Mongols. I've been going with a monk while he's trying to do his rounds and collecting, medicine, and on the way you get ambushed by Mongols and just different things. But um, I've been really slow with the main quest just because this has been fun to just hit the little various things going around the map. So the quests don't go in a geographical sense. So you're not starting at point A on the island and slowly making your way across the island. You're jumping around a little bit early on.
How does it
And
kind of
go ahead.
how does it track you that way? Like, does it feel like it's funneling you down some of those, or does it kind of open up into a big map that you can kind of pop around anywhere you want,
You're pretty
almost like
much
Assassin's
open
Creed?
almost from the get-go. And you'll have your markers on the map. You can choose to go to them. So I'll set my marker for something across, like, the next piece of quest step for whatever main quest is all the way over there on the coast. I'll set my marker there and start going. But if I happen to bump into a Mongol camp or any of this other varieties of little things that you can do, I will happily sidetrack. And I've so it's been very leisurely. So I'm kind of actually more just focused on exploring and just kind of getting map coverage and trying to get everything within that area. I have hit like a Mongol area once, where it's like, this is Mongol occupied territory, and usually that means I got to go find the leader and kill the leader or something. But that didn't pop up, and it turns out it was like Mongol occupied territory, but I had to do a story mission to actually get it where I could fight the Mongols there and liberate it. So there's a little bit of that. Maybe I'm exploring a little too much, but um, there's a lot of you were talking about like the skins.
Do those
There's a
camps reset then, or are they like once you've
uh,
conquered them, or are they conquered type of thing?
so far I've conquered them. They're conquered. That's not to say that as you're wandering around the map, there might be little caravans of Mongols like on the roads and stuff. So you can always you're always hitting stuff. Um, and they're even like bears, because like you were talking about finding leather in what was it, Fallout. Um, so there are boars and bears for you to get animal hides for leather. Uh, and the bears will run you down and grab you and fling you around. And usually most of the time when I find the bears, they're actually fighting a Mongol. The Mongols are like doing them, fighting them, and you
The
kind of
equivalent
fight
of
them.
the sending a tiger into camp in a Far Cry game type of thing.
Kind of. I mean, well, they're just happen to actually on the ship little side quest, there was like a cage, and I was like, oh, I gotta go liberate the person they captured, and I unlocked the cage, and the bear just burst out of the cage. So I guess like they're capturing the bears for like pets or like circuses or whatever it is they had back then. Um, so sometimes the Mongols will be fighting them, but the bears are strong and they're scary, and I've been killed by a bear like 4 times. So um, little things like that. Did I mention? I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but you write haiku. That's one of the side quests in the game. On my haiku has been cruddy. Like they give you like a tree of you can choose A, B, or C line, and then you go there and you pick, and it kind of just, and you get a headband from it. But that's neat. The they have these little mini games where I don't know if you remember Skies of uh, what was the Zelda in this
Skies of Arcade. Oh, Skyward
no,
Sword is what you're talking
Skyward
about.
Sword. Yeah. There's the bamboo slicing mini game in that, I think, where you have to like hit the right keystrokes, I think. Is that how it worked? I almost want to say that
I think so. That sounds about right. Or
they
it seems
they
like it would have been a Motion Plus type of
Yeah.
thing for
maybe
Skyward Sword.
they kind of took it from that, but if you there are these bamboo things and they give you like where you have to slice the bamboo and you have to hit the right combination. So they're just little knick-knack little mini games around that you can do. Um, But the and then when you and doing the standoffs, I think when you encounter the enemies has always been fun for me. Like initially I was like, I'll do this a couple of times and it'll get old, but it hasn't really gotten old where you you call out to you if you hit the button to do the standoff, you basically call out and announce your presence because you're an honorable samurai, right? You're not going to stab somebody in the back. And it'll do like a cut scene where they like set you up old west style. I think I mentioned this. And I've upgraded mine where I can kill multiple guys now with my standoff. Like they charge at me and I like slice through a couple of them in succession. But I still do that pretty much every time and I enjoy it. But um, yeah, it's just I was a little worried that it was gonna get a little dull for me to like keep going through and just kind of fighting the Mongols, but I am a little they did a good job of investing you in the fact that like it's a community. So most people know who you are because you're one of the like the lords of the area, the the nobility. But I've you help so and so get their sake shop running again or whatever, and there's been some interesting characters. So yeah, it's a very solid quintessential like PS4 single player experience game, but I'm gonna keep hammering it until I've pretty much cleared everything. So I don't know how much more I'll keep talking about it, but it's gonna be in my rotation for a while. I definitely like it once you start leveling I'm enjoying just even leveling up some of the skins. Like you have each different outfit comes with different abilities. Like the traveler's outfit will reveal more of the map and it like will buzz when you're near a like a special item or something. So I pretty much stay with that until it's time to fight, and then I might switch to my Ronin attire, which makes me stealthy, or my samurai attire. But it, the they look cool. Like I mean, it's not. It's pretty slick how the design is very well done, and it's not overly cumbersome, and I don't have to pay extra money to get the skins. So they're
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's
Yes. No, I'm glad you're enjoying it. So I'm gonna keep us. Go ahead.
Real quick. Was Ghosts? Did they say that was they're gonna do like an upgrade when the new systems come out? Anybody know? I was just wondering.
I don't know if they're doing an upgrade, but they are releasing a multiplayer mode.
Oh.
I think I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting a multiplayer mode for PS5.
Right. I don't think it's if we've talked about that on the deep dive, but it's like you're not playing as Gene. You're playing as like just 4 samurai type things, and it's like a. I guess you complete missions together like as a team, and you have different kind of classes, but it'll be interesting.
Interesting.
So Swiss got a chance to enjoy his premier prestige Sony games, which is in his wheelhouse. So let's move over to you, Osiris Prime. And also a game in your wheelhouse is a new Battle Royale game, Spellbreak. It's been out on PC for a while on early access, but now you've been playing it on Switch and also Xbox. So I'm curious on how it plays and how the differences are as well. So this is Harry Potter Fortnite, or is this something different?
Well, sort of. I mean, you have magic in the game. Basically, it's magic based, kind of fantasy magic based game. There's 6 magical powers that you can use. You actually choose before you jump into a game. So you got wind, fire, ice, lightning, stone, and then toxic, which is kind of like just poisonous cloud that you can throw at people and explode on the ground for like a larger attack. So when you pick that initial one, you always have that whatever you pick at the beginning. So say like I pick ice, I'll have that forever throughout that match at least. But then you can pick, and that's always on your right hand, and then you can find other gauntlets, what you're using. You're not using actually just pure magic from like your body or anything. You pick up these gauntlets that have these magic powers. You can pick up a secondary gauntlet while you're playing through the game, which basically it's just you pick from the same 6 elements that you can use. You can't have the same power on each hand, so you always have to have two different things. But the one kind of cool thing about this is that you can actually mix some of the powers together. So say I have the toxic, which is like there's a primary and secondary powers that you have. So the primary is just to kind of like you throw out like these globs of this green toxic stuff. Kind of hits them, it's kind of a lower, it's kind of like light and medium or light and high heart attack. So that's like the light attack, and then the heart attack is just like this big cloud of poison that you can throw out, which just has a cooldown period. Usually, I think they're like about 15, maybe 20 seconds or so. I think it might depend on the power, but and then say your secondary thing is lightning. So if you or fire, let me say fire because I know that for sure. So if you throw a regular firebolt at that cloud, it like explodes and it gives you tremendous damage to whoever you're hitting at the time. So it's kind of cool that there's that kind of strategy to it too.
Do you see those? Do players play off each other in that way, where like there's double team going on, or if you're playing on a squad, that you're kind of those skills kind of combo and complement each other, or is it more individual combos that you're creating?
That's a good question. I've never actually seen it from team play. I've only seen it on just that person or myself doing the actual combos. That's interesting. I'm assuming it would do the same thing though, because everybody has the same kind of powers, or they could pick from the same kind of powers. So I would think that would probably happen. It's a good strategy. I didn't even think about before. And then you also have different equipment that you could pick up, kind of like belts and boots. They kind of just give you a little bit extra, defense or offense or stuff like that. And then there's a third thing, like another power you can get, which is they're basically, I'm trying to think of all the powers. There's nothing really offensive. It's mostly like a defense or kind of like an escape kind of a move. So you got like invisibility. You have a flight, which you can fly in this game normally, but that you only can fly for like maybe like 5 seconds or so. So it's pretty short. So this gives you a longer flight path, and also it's faster. It's way faster. So like if the wall's closing in, you can kind of escape from it a little bit quicker. So you got things like that. But I just noticed this today, and I've been playing probably for like over a week or so, a week and a half, that the third tier of powers, they actually can give you a buff. So say you have like the wind power, and there's like I forgot what it's called now, but it basically kind of just shoots you up in like kind of almost like a tornado kind of a fashion. But if you have the wind power, it actually amplifies that. So you fly like way up, and you can kind of like float for a little bit. So that's kind of cool. You can just like rain down shots to people, do stuff like that. The invisibility actually gave the toxic power. I believe when you go invisible and you shoot, at least the first shot, because as soon as you shoot, you actually go, you come out of the invisibility, but that first shot is like amplified in damage, which is actually kind of cool, which I was just starting to play around with earlier today. So there's actually some strategy to it, so it's kind of cool. Right now, so I've been playing on the Switch primarily, and that, I don't think they call it a beta on the Switch for some reason. I don't think, because I know on the Xbox that is the game preview. And I'm not sure on the PC if it's actually officially been released there either. But I was actually playing with one of my friends, and he was on the... I'm trying to think now. No, he was on Switch too. So we were both playing on the Switch. But you can do cross-platform. There's cross-platform on here. So that's kind of nice. Graphically... Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, graphically, it kind of reminds me of Breath of the Wild a lot. It's kind of a cel-shaded kind of look to it, which is fine. I mean... The world itself it's just kind of, mostly foresty, mountainous kind of terrain, which is fine. I mean, there's just ruins here and there. There's kind of like kind of in the south area, there's like just really dark, like almost something like there's like a big war or something, so everything's kind of destroyed. So there's not a lot of variety as far as the terrain, but just once you get in the battle, though, I mean, it's pretty hectic, especially near the end of the rounds. Because I'm trying to think. I think it's like a 64 player. It doesn't say here in a couple of places I was trying to look at, but I think the player, it's not 100 player like a normal battle royal. So you do get a lot of time at the beginning to kind of like grab your powers, and you can get potions and health that you can pick up and take. So that's another kind of thing that's kind of cool. It's not like a automatically get your health and shields back. You have to pick up stuff to get that back. So it's another little strategy you gotta have to kind of figure out. Hey, do I want to carry all these shields, or get some potions, mix it up. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I'm definitely getting more into it. Right now, there is a shop they have, but there's no battle pass that I can tell that they have right now. But you can buy things with in either in-game money, or you can pay real money to get. I think it's called gold in here. So to buy the outfits and emotes and all that kind of stuff. That's in most battle royale games. So and they're all priced pretty much the same. Just like everything else.
It has the one battle royale mode, 64 player.
Yeah, you have just the solo, the squads, and the duos. I was unlocking each mode, so I'm not sure if I have the duos yet. But I unlocked the solo and the squads so far. But yeah, there's no other modes right now. So, the one interesting thing was that it said it has roguelike elements, which I'm not sure what that is exactly, because
But just because of the different chests that your builds in terms of what your skills would be that you kind of unlock during a run.
It might be. Yeah, I'm not.
That seems kind of like, yeah. I mean, I guess technically so do most battle royales have roguelike elements of find chests and guns, and each run is a little, each round is a little different because of what you find.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what they're talking about. I don't know. It just seems like they're kind of playing that up a little bit more than I have read in other places, or for other battle royale games. But yeah, I don't see anything too different there. But there is also a section in the main menu where it says chapters, which is actually locked to me right now, and I don't know if it's locked for everybody. I've noticed that on both Xbox and Switch. So I don't know if they're kind of doing like what was that one, Ninjala, where they kind of released kind of chapters,
little story modes.
Yeah. So I haven't read anything really about that yet. I haven't had a chance to look it up, but I'm assuming that's what that might be. They might have just like a little story mode, which might be kind of cool. Some of the character designs and stuff kind of look kind of cool. So it'd be kind of nice to have a little backstory in everybody. As far as the Switch, the Xbox, I mean, really, graphically, I don't really see any major difference. On the Xbox, maybe stuff is a little bit more vibrant, the colors and stuff, but I mean, it's not like an Outer Worlds where like everything was like totally muted as far as color on the Switch, and then Xbox, it's vibrant and you can kind of see it. There's really not that much of a difference though in this case. So probably because of the cell shading, I'm assuming. It's not they're not trying to be realistic or anything. So it looks pretty good on both systems, and it pretty much plays the same. I don't really see any difference as far as gameplay either. So.
Good. That's great. It runs well. Frame rate rise is pretty consistent on both. So I suppose the stylized aspect of it means that it scales pretty nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on.
And this is also on the Epic Store as well, right? Not on Steam, but on Epic.
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. And then
they had you on the
site.
Yeah. And on PS4 too. So it's on all the consoles and stuff.
Yep. Great. Excellent. Well, thank you for that update. We are past our hour point, so let's move into our Pickz Playz assignment. And this week we've got Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning comes out at the end of this week, which is the 2013, 2012 game from published by EA, but it was put out by the now Kurt Schilling's studio, the now closed down one. The multiple lawsuits and controversies and public funding from Rhode Island, which they never paid back, studio closures. This was Kingdoms of Amalur was going to be kind of the launching. Reckoning was going to be the launching point for an MMO RPG. It had Todd McFarlane on board for character design. It had R.A. Salvadori on for story. This was a lot of investment up front, and this is the only game that came out for it. And it's not a bad game. I've played it on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, but Re-Reckoning comes out, and it is one of the many re-releases that THQ Nordic has done during this generation, but there have been lots of other re-releases. And we've talked about re-releases before. We've had some re-releases in terms of our Pickz Playz assignment, but really I want to do a re-release assignment here because as we come to the close of a generation and we are coming into the launch of a new one, and we're still getting announcements of re-releases and remasters and reissues, whether it's Kingdoms of Amalur, which nobody thought, and actually now it's getting DLC in 2021, to last week's announcement with Nintendo, and we're getting another Switch re-release of a Wii U game. So there are plenty of things still coming out that are on this gen from last gen. And so that's the re-release that I want to look at. I want to look at last gen games, 360, PlayStation 3, and Wii U games that have been reissued on current generation hardware. Was it worth it? Did it add anything to it? Did it change any mechanics? Did it help it run smoother? Or is it more or less a nostalgia or cash grab? That this is an IP, it's a relatively easy conversion, and this is something that's out there. So we've got a couple on our list already that people have populated. Prime, you've put out THQ Nordic's Red Faction Guerrilla Remastered, which I know that we've talked about before, but it's definitely in that kind of like, oh yeah, I guess they did remaster that, but is it worth it? I will go in that same THQ Nordic vein of either picking up some Darksiders 1 or 2, or stay on Volition and think about some Saints Row as well. So
THQ alumni.
Yep, that's right.
Lots
of THQ pieces there, but that I guess what happens when you have a second publisher who picks up a lot of IPs and is trying to figure out how to make some money off them. And speaking of someone who knows how to make money off their IPs, we, Swiss, of course, you're going back to Nintendo, and which is very timely given the announcement of Hyrule Warriors Calamity, or whatever the Breath of the Wild one is that is coming out this November, which actually I have to say looks kind of cool because I like the Breath of the Wild art style. But you're going to go back to Hyrule Warriors, what is it, Definitive Edition, or whatever like subtitle it has.
I've had it for a while and I haven't played it yet. And then now that we saw that, I'm like, oh, I want to try it out. And then it's like, oh, okay, it actually matches up with the Pickz Playz. So
matches the Pickz Playz assignment, right? Hyrule Warriors was a Wii U game. And on the Wii U, you could play with one person on the TV and somebody else playing on the gamepad. The Switch has a couple other options there as well. So, and the frame rate is definitely better. So I would love to hear kind of the remastered and revisited discussions that we will have in 2 weeks. But next week is our deep dive discussion. We've got, as I talked about at the top of the hour, lots of industry news and updates. Prime, you're going to be hosting it, and it is all of us on board. This is nothing like a console game price announcement to bring us all out of the woodwork. And we've got a 4-person show here next week. So join us back.
It's going to be a slobber knocker, as
a slobber knocker. Thanks, JR. That's
JR
right.
used to say.
Anyhow,
you just wait.
It's going to be knocked down. I got a slobber knocker. Yeah. All right. So, but it will be, right? We've got a number of Xbox announcements to talk about, and I'm sure there'll be more trickling out between now and next week. So please feel free to join us next week again on E2KG, on Enough to Keep Going. And in between times, always feel free to hit us up and engage with us within the community as well. So for myself, DBQ Hams, Osiris Prime, and Swissguard, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening, watching, whenever and wherever you may be. And please remember to play the games you love and love those you play with. Stay safe. Take care. Good night.
Oh, for sure.